Right, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good morning to you from what is a decidedly wet London on the 21st of May 2025, for what is the start of the MPW Talks series, which has now become an annual thing for us. And over the course of the next 5 weeks, we have some rather tasty webinar topics for you that hopefully should be instructive for you, but also should give you something by way of updates as well. Not only to where we are and what we're up to at this moment in time, but also some of the things affecting and pertaining to the industry at this particular moment, not least, of course, something with university applications and also by way of visas, which is becoming wildly complex as with every passing day at this moment in time. But we kick off this year's series with a view to foundation courses. Now, one of the things that MPW has morphed on over the period of time is we've gone from A levels to incorporating GCSEs, and then also to now incorporating foundation courses too, which we've done over the course of over the last decade. We've been adding them on, and everything again changes year on year, including which of the MPW colleges is administering which foundation programs. Today we are going to have a look at the opposite side of A levels, so the foundation courses, who they're applicable for, and specifically what it is that we are running. We are going to be talking about two of our foundation programs. Today we will not be mentioning about the University of the Arts London, so the UAL Art Foundation course, something entirely separate there. Today we're going to be talking about NCUK, which runs out of our Birmingham and Cambridge campuses, and the MPW University Foundation program itself. It's no longer new, but certainly we have new strands coming on stream in September 2025, and we'll be able to tell you all about those. But I'd like to make some introductions this morning. To start us all off, we have Ryan Moran, who is our Vice Principal International, for those of you who know Ryan, over in Birmingham. And also from NCUK this morning, we have Rudolf Skuman, who's joining us from sunny or not so sunny South Africa, as we have been told, to give the view from NCUK as much as where they're up to this year and what sort of things we should be looking out for. Over in London, we have Oliver Watt as well, who runs the University Foundation programme for MPW London, but Oliver will be joining us a bit later on. We're going to start the session today with Rudolf and Ryan. So gentlemen, over to you. I will be able to discuss questions as we go through. To the audience out there today, you have a Q&A section on this town hall. Please do add your questions to it. They will be answered either as we go along. So if I see the right opportunity, I'll be able to add it into the actual presentation. Otherwise, we will pause for questions at the end. But do keep your questions coming through on the Q&A chat. On this town hall today, we also have the recruiters from the MPW International team all around the globe, some of whom obviously you'll know, and they'll be able to answer your questions as live as well. So without further ado, if I add over to Rudolf and Ryan to kick us all off today. Gentlemen, the floor and the platform is yours, and if you'd like to share your screen, please do so now.
Right. Thank you so much, James. It's much appreciated, and it's great to form part of your webinar and also just inform a little bit more about NCUK as an accreditation body and our involvement also at MPW. So I will just kickstart then with regarding who we are and basically what we offer at MPW, and then we can take it from there. So about NCUK, we are basically been founded 30 years ago, more or less, by a consortium of universities in the UK. But from there, we expanded, and now we have partnered universities of about 65, and it's constantly growing, and we're constantly adding more universities for pathway that we provide. So it's not just a few in the UK, but we're looking at Australia, New Zealand, Canada, a little bit of the USA, and then of course the UK. And we have a few study centers globally, about 120 to be exact. But MPW is definitely one of our high quality study centers that we have. And we've got with 120 study centers, we've got about 35 countries that we are involved with, and that's also about expanding this year. So keep you update. We'll keep you updated on that. 90% of all of our students actually get into their first and secondary choice of universities, and that's quite a high standard to ensure that we do have a pathway that actually gets you to a goal. It's not just about completing a pathway, an international foundation year, but it actually do get you to where you want to go, what you want to study, where you want to study, and then going from there. Like I mentioned, it's been 30 years, and we've got about 50,000 students that we've progressed through our channels to leading top universities. And I'll get into the universities a little bit later. But just a quick video just to summarize everything. A little bit corny, but enjoy, and then I'll take it from there. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that video of the music and everything. Just a quick thing regarding the foundation year is the entry requirements. So in general, you need to complete a local high school or secondary school level qualification to gain access, or completed your IGCSE, O levels, GCSEs, 5 modules at grade 4 or above. And then also, of course, it's more Western universities that you will be joining. So your English language also needs to be a proficiency, should be on a level equivalent to the IELTS 5.0. If you don't have done an English test, then we can also provide the students with a password test that they can do to see that the English are on that standard. And then a UK-based centre as MPW, that's obviously the UK VIE IELTS test that is needed for visa purposes. But basically, and it was in the video, but how the International Foundation Year for NCUK is compiled is that you choose 3 modules in the stream, more or less the stream that you want to go and study in, and then there's a compulsory English for academic purposes, which all our students from every country all over the world needs to take to ensure English proficiency. Regarding the 3 modules, you can actually go to the next slide, where you would choose from all of these modules 3, which would in line with what you want to do. So if it's into more the commerce fields, if it's humanities, if it's the arts and design, if you want to go into STEM, we do offer medicine pathway route as well. then you would choose the modules more in line with the direction you want to go in. And what is also quite nice is we've got 3 mathematics modules as well, and you can see there's business, engineering, and science. So once again, choosing a maths module which is more in line with where you want to go and what you want to do. But there's a lot of different courses that you can then progress to from the 65 universities after completing this in the field you are more focused on. How would you be assessed with your 1-year International Foundation Year? In the standard for the subject modules, those 3, it would be a 10% for semester 1 test, 20% for coursework that you will do while you're studying, and 70% for your final exam. There are some exceptions. For instance, in our arts and design one, it would be 100% coursework because it's more practical module. But then again, for maths and further maths, there won't be the coursework. It would be the semester mark would be a lot higher, on about 30%. For English and for academic purposes, it would basically be in 4 quarters. It would be reading, writing, speaking, and listening that you'll be assessed with. We get this a lot. Also in my line of work is working with a lot of study centers. What would the student get after completing the International Foundation Year? You are awarded with a certificate and transcript. You can use that then as proof that you've completed the NCUK International Foundation Year to progress to one of the partnered universities on our list. But once again, it's not just about getting a certificate. It's about thinking, why are you doing the International Foundation Year? Where do you want to go? Which university are you looking at? A certain qualification, and then what's your end goal? What type of work you want to do one day? And a certificate is just a small step on obtaining to getting you there. And I'll go into the support that we'll also provide while you do your NCUK Foundation Year. I won't mention all the 65 universities that form part of our consortium, but there's quite a few already listed there. We've got 9 that is ranked in the top 100, and then 20 in the top 200. This is the QS World University Rankings. And we are, like I mentioned earlier, looking at expanding and even adding more universities in different parts of the world, which you can then possibly progress to. So if you also want to see a specific university, you can go onto our website and just type in the university there and you will find it. And also the courses that you can study via our pathway at that university. And okay, as basically I just mentioned, also with all the different courses that you can study, 7,500 courses is quite a lot, so I won't give you the list, but there's on our website a pathfinder, a course finder that you can use, and I can provide that link also afterwards if you need that, to see what type of course you can go and study at the university. And yeah, we don't just provide a course, we also do provide a lot of support from NCUK side as well, with university applications since day one. When you are registered at MPW for the International Foundation Year, you are supported from an NCUK side. We actually have a whole student support team that will be, providing webinars, for providing assistance, how to choose the right university for you. Are you looking more at a highly ranked university? Are you looking at affordability? All of those things they would support you with, and also with accommodation and then visa application guidance. It can be quite daunting for a student to decide, which or how to do the visa applications and deadlines and what to submit, and we do provide support with that as well. So some, I would say, bragging rights probably. Why I study the International Foundation Year with us is it's a trusted program. Like mentioned, we've got a lot of study centers on a global scale. So, and it is equivalent to an A-levels as well. And so really a trusted program, and it's been around for really a lot of years. There are some flexibility with your study options. So choosing those 3 modules in the line that you want to go into open doors at different universities and different courses that you can go and study. We do provide a lot of support, but then also we do have the guarantee involved, and you can go there into the finer detail at the guarantee. But basically, in summary, if you complete the International Foundation Year, and you do well, then you are guaranteed to be placed at one of our partnered universities. You still need to meet the admission requirements for that specific university, but there's a guarantee you are not only doing this for a certificate, you're doing it for where you want to go afterwards. And then some interesting stats also regarding the NCUK students, specifically 97% of all our graduates are actually employed after completing their degree. 98% of all students, the NCUK students, successfully passed their university degree, and that just also shows you, and I like the title for this webinar about everything starts with a strong foundation, because clearly the foundation is strong enough for them when they progress to the university to be in a place where they can complete their studies. And then there's also stats for the 2.2 and 2.1 or higher, 84 and 69. Scholarships opportunities, there's a lot of scholarship opportunities. Some of them are specific for NCUK at different universities, and this is constantly also changing. And if it changes, once again, the student support side, we are informed, and we also inform the students on these scholarship opportunities. So if you are looking at scholarships, then this is something that is possible via our channel, and also, being informed about any changes that might occur. If you don't want to hear from me or from MPW, then you can also speak to our ambassadors. They are from all over the world. That's the link, and I can share that afterwards as well, where you can speak directly with one of our ambassadors to find out, how they're experiencing the pathway, or if they've done the pathway, how are they experiencing university? Did it help them? All of those things. So it's quite informative to actually hear from a student directly, and not just from NCUK staff and MPW staff. So yeah, just in essence, there you can see all the different countries that you can go to. We are constantly adding more universities, but there's also quite a criteria. We don't just partner with any university. They need to meet a certain criteria and actually be of value for our NCUK students, and not just add more and more universities if it's not really going to benefit the students. Then just to end off from my side, so I only had 10 minutes. I'll just play this short 30-second video, but then afterwards, happy to answer any questions when everyone is done with their presentations.
Rudolph, just while your video is playing, because there's a sound issue on the video coming through, we can talk over the top of it while we see the nice, friendly faces of the students all around the globe, which is a great video to have. And thank you very much indeed for that. For those eagle-eyed out there, you'll see that NCUK is now running under new branding, which all looks rather smart and very very swish on there. So thank you very much indeed for that particular bit. I just had one quick question before looping Ryan in, if I may. You're talking about adding new universities on. You've got an enormous array of universities already on the list. What are the plans moving forward? Some of this will be corporately confidential, I'm sure, but is there a movement to be adding more and more on per year? Is there a number of how many you're looking to sort of add on within there? It's already quite an array, but specific to overseas within that, are you looking to partner more with universities overseas?
Can't say too much, but we are exploring some opportunities, more looking at Malaysia as well, Italy, places like that. So it's a constant thing. There's no target more or less to add universities per year, but it's on a case-to-case basis that we kind of explore opportunities. And like I mentioned, it's more to see, is it going to bring more a unique thing towards our setup? Malaysia is becoming quite popular for students to go and study in for a certain market.
Yeah.
So that's why we're exploring that.
That's very kind. Thank you. And I know I'm putting you on the spot on a live recorded link. So there is only so much you can say there. However, I mean, one thing that will be very relevant and how we loop Ryan in at this particular moment in time is obviously NCUK is everywhere now. I mean, you've got it in many centres overseas as well. Ryan, I wonder if I can bring you into the conversation and sort of give it from the MPW Birmingham aspect in terms of how you administer it and why it's a good thing for us to be running the NCUK course itself.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much. I'll just share my screen and then I can talk through some stuff with you guys. Brilliant. So, yes, we've been running the program in Birmingham now for 8 years, and it's been a really successful addition to our school alongside obviously the A-level program. Um, so yeah, just a few things specific to MPW. So obviously, thanks to Rudolph for talking about NCUK in general, and yeah, we follow a similar program in terms of requirements, etc. We maintain small class sizes, so maximum class size of 14. On the foundation, often it's smaller than that. Um, we have obviously excellent pastoral care, so we pride ourselves on sort of differentiating maybe from a university-based foundation or potentially from other centres through the level of customised and tailored care that we provide to our students. I know Rudolph's already talked through some of the universities, but there's some really excellent offerings, and there are obviously options outside of this as well. So although these are the partner universities, there are other universities that accept the program, which also makes it really appealing to lots of students. But within the consortium, you've got some good options for medicine. So UCLAM, for example. UCLAM is a big area of success at the moment for MPW Birmingham. We've got 100% hit rate in terms of offers this year, and we had a 75% hit rate in terms of offers last year. That's something that I'll talk about a little bit more as we go forward. But if anyone does have any questions about specifics, please do let me know. So
Ryan, I have one as you go when it
Yeah.
comes to the medical side of things. What is it that's changed about that? Because medicine used to be so resistant to the idea of foundation courses. What is it that's making it such a success now? What is it that's relevant from the foundation course that people are starting to see the light with? And that's particularly encouraging for international students at the moment, because that always used to be an area of prejudice from the university perspective, and that's obviously an area of great growth for you within that.
Yeah, I suppose it's two things really. I suppose it's the quality of the NCUK provision, so the reputation within the market with those universities have meant that they have their value in line with A levels. And then from a college point of view, it'd be the level of preparation. So we have a really structured medical program at MPW and especially at MPW Birmingham. So um, yeah, we have MMI station practice, we have individual interview support, we have tailored guidance for different medical universities. We have getting into medicine author within the building, so the other vice principal, Adam Cross. So in terms of preparing students for medical courses, I do not think there's a better college in the UK, and the results we get are proof of that. So every student through the foundation who has applied to medicine this year has got to interview. Every student that's been to interview has been made an offer. So yeah, to get that sort of success, I mean, obviously shows that the program is good and it's got good weighting with the university, but also the level of care and guidance these students are being provided with is exceptional. We did a recent fam trip where we showcased some of the medical support that we provide, and the agents were particularly impressed with the differentiation in comparison to other schools within this area. So yeah, James, that's why I feel both A level and on the foundation why we're getting such success in that area.
Thank you.
Okay, so we run two programs at the moment. So we have a September intake and we have a January intake. So there's two chances to get to MPW and study the foundation. The September intake is your normal structure. So they have semester one, semester two. Semester one runs until the end of January, and then semester two runs from February through to exams in June. The January program is more intense. So on the January program, obviously they start after Christmas. The first set of exams are during Easter, so usually at the end of March, and then the final exams are in July. So it's an intense program, and we would expect a higher level of grades on arrival for that program. But again, if anyone's got any students or any inquiries regarding that, we'd be happy to talk to you and discuss requirements or what type of students are suited to each program. So NCUK, we do have pathways now. Obviously, these can be tailored and these can be changed, but most people pick a route. So we do business pathway, science pathway, which is your access to medicine, an engineering pathway, and a humanities pathway. Now, what's good about this is you've got something for everyone. So if you've got a student who wants to do foundation but is not good at maths, the humanities pathway is a really good stream. I'll talk about it moving forward, but we get real high levels of success here. The science pathway, obviously, if you're access to medicine, so you alongside this, you would get the MPW tailored medical support. Access to the medical society and all of those sessions. But yeah, 4 good routes, but they can be interchanged. So another example of flexibility, I've got a student this year doing architecture. They're on the humanities pathway, and then they're doing art alongside it to get their portfolio ready for university. That student's now got an offer from University of Liverpool for architecture. So there's lots of options and there's lots of routes within that. Rudolph did touch upon grading, but what I like about the grading system with NCUK is it's fixed. So students haven't got to worry about fluctuations with grade boundaries, or everyone can do well. So if you can hit that 70% mark, you can get that A grade. It doesn't matter how everyone else is performing. So yeah, I think that's a good thing for students. They know they've got a goal and they know where to pitch themselves and when to aim at. Now, this is probably the thing that I would say differentiates MPW as a foundation provider, as an NCUK provider from other centres, but also from university foundations where you would have to also have that option. We do a form session. So every Monday at 9 o'clock, I run a form session. So I have every student in the same room and we just thrash out problems. So if they're struggling with maths, we put solutions in place. We can do our UCAS and our university support in these sessions, looking at personal statements, looking at university choices. But also, it's just a good chance to meet with the students, make sure they're okay from a pastoral point of view, make sure any challenges that they're facing, they can get support in those areas. So yeah, just an extra addition. We try to build a community. It's not sort of a huge foundation where people get lost within a university. You're in a small, tailored college environment. University support. So same as our A-level students, foundation students get outstanding support. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see an email from Ruth at NCUK. So her email states that she receives a large number of applications each year, and this is the best set I've seen for a long while. So this is comments regarding our students' personal statements and the quality of references that we submit. So Rudolph mentioned earlier that there's over 120 centres, I think he said, within the NCUK group, and NCUK are stating there that we have submitted some of the best university applications that they've seen across all centres. So yeah, we do personal statement support, course selection, and then 100% of our students received their first choice offers in the previous year. So Rudolph mentioned that 90% across NCUK, and we managed to hit 100% within the MPW group. And obviously, I can stand here or sit here and tell you how good the program is, but I just wanted to share with you some feedback from parents. So as an educator, it's always great to have the responsibility of looking after other people's children, and it's nice to get this sort of feedback. So you've got 2 families here, both based in Africa, just feeding back on the exceptional support and guidance, and more importantly, how safe and happy their son and their daughter felt whilst they was with us on the NCUK program. We've had generations or siblings coming through the program. One family based in Nigeria. I've had five of their sons and daughters come through the NCUK program in the last 8 years. So it works. It's a really good program, and the level of guidance is exceptional. With the support of NCUK, we like to get students out to as many universities as we can throughout the academic year. Obviously, these international students, they might not have visited some of these cities, and if they're going to live there for 3 to 5 years, it's good for them to be able to see it, experience it, to ensure that they will feel settled. I'm cautious of time, so I'm going to work through a little bit faster. We have great extracurricular activities, so Model United Nations, sports, art exhibitions. So yeah, it's not compulsory, but there's plenty to be getting done. Another email in terms of celebrating success. So one of our students here achieving the International Top Performing Student of the Year for the University of Manchester. This is a really interesting one because this student switched from A level, where she actually got a U in mathematics, and then ended with an A in maths on the foundation program. So it just shows the sort of value that we can add in college, both pastorally but obviously academically as well. So I had the pleasure of going to the award ceremony with her family, who flew over from Nigeria to attend. So yeah, just good in terms of celebrating success. Now, this is probably more about what you want to hear about. So there's success rates and the A star to B. So 2024. So I've not just picked the best year. This is last year. Okay. We had 100% A star to B on 2 pathways. So the science pathway, so the access to medicine pathway, and the humanities pathway. 100% of students got all A star to B grades, so no grade below a B. Across all pathways, 50% of students got at least 1 A star. And then across all pathways, 80% of students achieved A's and A stars. Okay, so you are not going to find many pathway providers or foundation providers in the UK or outside the UK who can report these grades, and this is consistently what we achieve with NCUK. Then globally, NCUK helpfully give us global averages. So they look at what our students are achieving here in Birmingham and Cambridge, and then they compare them to the other 120 odd centres across the UK. So you can see global averages and then our centre average for the reporting years. And if we just look at the most recent one, you can see the centre averages for MPW are superior to the global averages consistently across each subject. In case some of the gaps are maybe not that wide, but if we look at something like business studies, okay, you've got nearly 20% higher on average. So our students achieve grades nearly 20% higher than global averages. If you look at the English, consistently higher, 10% in some areas. So you're getting that added value that MPW is famous for within the foundation course. And then destination. So we're all interested in outcomes. So where are these students going? I put a couple of years in just to give a bit of an overview. But you can see, I mean, not outside the MPW group, King's College London. Okay, so some real big hitters in there, but lots of NCUK universities, Russell Group 1s, University of Sheffield, Birmingham. Okay, so lots of good choices. Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. So again, outside of the UCLan or Leicester offering through NCUK, there are other universities that we can access to. And then 2024, you can see lots of options in there, and a few medical places too. And I know we've touched upon on medicine, but we're achieving real amazing stuff on the foundation at the moment, and it is the real area of success. To get 100% hit rate this year, so again, these are recent offers, and 3 out of 4 students achieving their place last year. It just shows that the foundation, especially for obviously for international students, can be a real good area or real good access to medical related courses. And lastly from me, yeah, we've been getting some good global recognition from NCUK. in terms of awards. So in the most recent awards, we got the award for student satisfaction. So NCUK submit a survey to students every year, and the feedback from our students was the highest across all NCUK centres, which is why we were given that award. So yeah, I think feedback from students speaks volume, and it is obviously why we're all here. We want to give students a good experience, but also ensure they get outstanding outcomes. And yeah, that's everything from me. But I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Ryan, I appreciate that. If you don't mind stopping sharing your screen, I really appreciate your overview of MPW Birmingham there. In terms of questions, we might pick those up as we go through. The one thing I will say is, I mean, it's wonderful to hear about all the success, and you should be justifiably proud of what you've achieved, but also what you continue to achieve. For me, what's heartening when listening to all of these is some of the individual case studies within there, and particularly the student who was doing A levels and then went on to the foundation course, someone who didn't work in the A level system but did work on the foundation system. And that really is sort of the question that sort of pertains to this particular seminar is who suits A levels, who suits foundation course within there. One isn't necessarily better than the other, but it can be better than the other for individual students. And for this particular student, it sounded like it really worked within that particular respect. So
I mean,
sorry, please.
it's more accessible. So if recruiters or agents have got students who are probably academically not as strong as some of their other ones, it's an excellent route into top universities.
Yeah.
If I had to say, you would probably get 1 to 2 grades higher on a foundation than you would on A level. And that's my honest opinion, or from experience over the last 8 years, looking at case studies and what I think they would have achieved in A levels and what I think they would achieve on the foundation. I think you can really make that difference.
Just thank you very much indeed. Just a very quick question to both Ryan and Rudolph here, and then I'll bring Oliver in. But are there any degree courses or specific pathways that you can't really access from the NCUK Foundation course? Not universities themselves, but specific degrees within there. Some are obviously accessing now, like medicine, which used to be cut off before. Are there any still cut off?
From my side, not that I know of. We do offer a lot of different courses. So to be honest, when I do my line of work, and that's about looking for opportunities of studies in, I just say there's a lot of courses that you can do, and you'll most likely will find something that you want to study after doing the foundation and in the fields available. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything out there that needs to be joined yet. Yeah, from foundation. Yeah.
Thank you. Ryan?
I would say in terms of challenges, I mean, medicine is obviously a lot more open now, but if you're looking to dentistry or veterinary science, I think your options are far more limited on the foundation than they would be at A level. So although we've managed to reverse this or at least get on par now with the foundation, I think if you've got students heading towards dentistry or for veterinary science, I think A level is still the superior route, in my honest opinion.
Lovely, thank you. And just lastly, capping this off, in just a quick answer if you can, but are there any specific entry requirements for science, the medical foundation coming out of MPW Birmingham? We've got a question out there for that. How different is it really than trying to get into onto the A level for doing medicine?
Yeah, so the only difference would be in terms of your preparation prior to arrival. So because it's only a 1-year course, it's good if students can arrive with work experience. So we know work experience is a key part of the medical application process. We can support, but because it's such a short duration, you're not here for 2 years, you're here for 1. Getting that work experience in the summer prior to arrival is important. We've also, obviously, you've got to think about UCAT. Now, the UCAT exam is not needed by UCLan, but it's needed by other medical universities. So for example, if you wanted to apply to Queen Mary's Malta, which is one of the options, you need to have taken your UCAT exam prior to arrival, because again, the deadline is basically when your course starts. But again, if you've got students who come to interview with us, we can give that expertise, that guidance at the interview stage, tell them what they need to achieve before they arrive.
Lovely. Gents, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to keep you on, but just switch you off, if that makes any sense. Because we've had the NCUK picture, which is one of the foundation routes that we offer at MPW. But the specific to MPW London, I'm going to bring in Oliver Watt now. And Oliver runs the foundation programme over in MPW London. I say over in MPW London, but we're in London at the moment. And Oliver, you've developed this program from where it started to where it is now, and you're bringing on new streams this particular academic year. Over to you, really, please. I mean, you've heard the NCUK picture, but if we can be specific to the UFP and what you've got coming up.
Yeah, well, thanks. Hopefully this screen should share. Yeah, is that coming up? Can everyone see the presentation?
We can, yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Right, so in terms of the MPW Foundation, we have a couple of sort of individual pathways. The one we've been running currently is the business pathway. We adapted this year to kind of increase the range of options available to students, adding a couple of additional modules. So business enterprise, business environment, obviously the traditional business modules with economics, maths, sort of purely statistics based on helping students in terms of accessing those business degrees. And then we added in human geography and international relations this year to increase the kind of wider knowledge of the students, giving them a more sort of holistic and external environment understanding in terms of the business requirements. For students applying at university, having human geography and international relations will really ease their ability to kind of succeed in a business degree at a higher ranking university in particular. We do stream this a little bit. So students who may enter the UFP on slightly lower IELTS requirements, rather than doing the human geography and international relations, which are a little bit more essay-based, we would recommend that they take ICT for business and the study skills module, which are slightly more accessible for them in terms of the lower English language skills on entry. And again, both useful. ICT for business is sort of very practical in terms of creating spreadsheets, analyzing data management, etc., which would be sort of key aspects in terms of the business environment. So say this is our sort of traditional pathway that we've been running for the majority of the UFP's history, but with the addition of a few new subjects, we've actually seen students really widen the range of degrees that they go on to study, particularly this year with a big focus on students now actually applying for international relations and having pretty good success at receiving offers and hopefully gaining access based on achieving the requirements. So we've had quite a few students receive offers for international relations at Manchester. We've also had one, I think, receive an offer for international relations at Durham. So there's definitely a kind of increasing range of options available for them. To gain access, students need to hit the MPW IELTS requirements. And on top of that, they would be expected to take a maths entry test specifically for business, which will just test their entry-level maths ability, just to make sure they can really cope with the demands of the maths course. So say that is our traditional pathway. We're now offering, as of September, a range of new modules which are going to be fitted into several individual pathways. So one that we created based on interest really from students in previous years is a sports science specific pathway. So the focus of this is obviously going to be for students who are wanting to enter sports science degrees, potentially sports related degrees with sports management or sports and coaching, etc., also being potential options. So with this, core modules would be human biology, which is obviously based on the physiological systems, then more sort of comprehensive biology in terms of molecular and cellular biology, psychology, which is a kind of core requirement that a lot of universities will look for progression to sports science degrees. Math statistics, again, to cover the kind of math elements and ensure that students have the math level requirements for studies at university. And then economics or business would be the sort of additional choice that students would have. Economics, based on universities' preferences, seems to be the one that they would prefer students to take, but business would also be acceptable. And I'd say for most sports science degrees, the biology and the psychology would cover most of the basic entry requirements, with maths also being a kind of core aspect. For students to progress on the sports science, it's important that they have completed biology in their previous educational systems. The reason for this is if they start without having done biology, there's a pretty big gap between what they'll be required to do on the foundation program to get them up to speed to be able to enter the university on this program. So ideally grade 4 or above, or the equivalent in their domestic qualifications. We can be reasonably flexible on that, but it is really important that students have undertaken biology at some point before starting the UFP. Psychology, no need to have studied that previously. The majority of that will be taught throughout the course, so most students will be entering at the same level in terms of psychology. Obviously, if they have taken it, then that would be an advantage, but it's not a requirement for progression. So sports science, one of the new additions, and then the other big new addition, which could be of interest to a lot of students, is the humanities pathway. This is going to incorporate the existing modules of international relations and human geography, and then we're adding in some modern European culture modules, philosophy and sociology, which would be the core modules, again, meeting the majority of requirements and prerequisites for university humanity-based degrees. And then students will have the options of business, economics, history, and then in terms of the maths module, students will require some proof of GCSE maths, grade 4 or above, really for any university degree course. So if students haven't obtained that level, then we would encourage them and make it a prerequisite that they complete the maths statistics module, which will then count or ensure that they can gain entrance to the universities based on the maths requirements for universities. So again, the focus on this, predominantly humanities pathways, based on students and the success we've had with international relations this year. This is one I think that could be an attractive proposition for a lot of international students, and particularly if they've already completed maths GCSE and they don't want to continue with maths. This is obviously one of the few foundation module pathways that we can offer without maths as a prerequisite. But as I say, they must have achieved the grade 4 entry requirements. We then have the sort of start of the specific science-based pathways. So the engineering pathway, predominantly obviously for students wanting to enter degrees in engineering and or really computer science. So the core modules would be the 2 physics modules. They would then complete pure maths and a maths mechanics module. And then they can choose their kind of additional science specialism that they would like to complete. So chemistry for those who are maybe wanting to go into chemical engineering, or computer science for those looking to go down obviously the computer science route and the programming route. And again, these are both new modules that we are adding this year, but they're very much based on the previous sort of A-level teaching and adapting this really so that it can fit in with the specific one-year nature of the UFP program. The computer science in particular will be split into two modules. One, very much the sort of theoretical aspects of programming and understanding the sort of basics of computer science. And then the second module will be very much a practical module based on programming, and we'll have an assessment which will be based on solving some various programming issues and coding various pieces of software. There's an element where we're bringing some AI aspects into this, and there's a little bit of robotics included in the computer science program as well. So really helping students cope with the requirements of a university degree in computer science. Again, based on the science requirements here, students must have completed physics at GCSE or equivalent, and really for them to be able to succeed, sort of C or grade 4 would be the requirement that we'd be looking for in terms of previous physics experience. We can be relatively flexible, but it's really important that students have completed physics before, because we're obviously jumping straight into the foundation level. It's not something we would have the time or the ability to take a student from sort of no physics experience right up to the university expectations of physics knowledge for an engineering-based degree. In terms of computer science, they don't need to have studied computer science previously. Again, we can take them from no computer science knowledge through to success in the course, but any experience or programming experience they may have done would be obviously beneficial in easing or smoothing the progression to university. And then the final pathway is more just the straight science pathway. Again, prerequisites would be the 2 maths modules as a core requirement for science-based degrees. There is an element, I've said maths mechanics is a core module. Actually, for those students potentially wanting to study biology at degree level, that might be changed to statistics. So there is an element where we may split the second module in maths based on the chosen science that students are looking to undertake. So the options here would be really your specialist science that students would be looking to complete. So they would effectively choose 2 of those science-based modules, so physics, so chemistry or biology or psychology, and they would have to do 2 out of those options in terms of the sciences. The UFP program in total is based on 6 overall academic modules, so students have to complete 6 academic modules plus the EAP module to ensure they meet the English language requirements. Again, based on the science requirements, students would be expected to have a higher level of maths. We say ideally grade 7 in terms of maths for both science and engineering, and they would also have to take the MPW Maths Science entry test. And ideally, they would also have completed the sciences they want to study at GCSE level or equivalent, again, achieving ideally a grade 4 or above in those sciences. The reason mainly for that is if students start with very weak sciences, obviously it's very difficult to then get them up to the required level, and they're going to have a much harder time succeeding in the course. So it's important that students have studied the science previously and are comfortable with the nature of that science system. So in terms of the pathways, these are the pathways we are looking to run next academic term, starting in September. In general, just a little bit about the UFP overall. So we very much run this as a modular system, so much more similar to the university system. Modules will be split into sort of 2 main semesters effectively, where students will complete a selection of modules from September to December. They will then sit exams in December based on all the content that they have learned. That will then equate to a pass, distinction, merit for each of the modules they complete. They will then start the second set of modules in January, which will then run through until June or May, really, where they will sit their exams. And again, completion of those modules will be based on the material that they've covered during that individual semester. So one of the benefits of this for the students is it gives students the ability to have more simplified knowledge and understanding of the modules that they're taking. So they work all semester, they build the knowledge up, and then they set an exam straight after the kind of content is finished, hopefully ensuring that they have a better chance of progression as a result of the knowledge being kind of fresher, rather than having to complete the content all at the end of the academic year where they may have forgotten or not looked at materials. So one thing that we often get questions about, particularly from students when they start, is students will not necessarily be studying every subject during each individual semester. So, for example, a business student might study maths in semester 1, business enterprise and human geography in semester 1, and then they may end up doing business environment, economics and maths in semester 2. This doesn't have any impact on their progression, but again, it's just based on fitting all the 6 academic modules into the semester and giving them really the best opportunity to be able to progress and succeed in each of those individual units. And again, from my perspective, one of the reasons I've gone with this modular system is I think it's much more beneficial in preparing students for that university system, where it's much more modular, much more based on coursework and completion of coursework, and then assessments throughout the individual semesters. On top of that, it does allow us the opportunity that if students, for example, maybe struggle with an individual module, there is the ability, particularly if they struggle in the first semester, where they may be able to then retake the module throughout the second semester to improve their grades or enhance their grades overall. And then finally, in terms of university options, there are over sort of 50 partner universities that we work with, including several Russell Group. We've recently been in contact with Birmingham, and they have agreed to start accepting UFP students. So we have, I think, 3 students receiving offers that have received offers from Durham for, I think, international relations and business predominantly. For that, we have huge success over the last few years in terms of students achieving offers and going to Birmingham, likewise York, Nottingham, Queen Mary in particular, with a lot of our students being very London-centric. Queen Mary and City University tend to be very popular choices for a lot of our students. We then also have various options in Scotland with some high-ranking Scottish universities, such as Aberdeen, Heriot-Watt, and Dundee. And then Lancaster is another, obviously, strong university option, particularly for students that are looking maybe to go down some of the more geography-based or environmental aspects. Lancaster has a pretty good specialism in those elements. I'd say, actually, it's not mentioned here, but this year we've also had success in some students being accepted and made offers from Manchester University as well. So there's progression. Students can apply to any university in the UK. We obviously advise students to make the majority of their choices from the partner universities. We work in partnership with Kaplan University Services, and they are aiding and helping with the progression of students to those universities. But for example, last year we had 33% of our students last year achieve success in Russell Group universities and be accepted onto Russell Group universities. This year again, we've had a very high level of students applying to Russell Groups. The majority of the strong students receiving offers from them, and with quite a few of them likely progressing to Manchester, Nottingham, Durham, Birmingham. And I think there's a few as well potentially going to Liverpool. That's pretty much it in terms of the presentation. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Ollie, thank you very much indeed for that one, and I think your presentation's stopped now, so it should just be us here. Just give people the opportunity to ask any questions in the Q&A panel whilst we talk. But you've obviously developed the UFP program over the last couple of years, and you've stepped away from the NCUK side of things in London and more down the UFP based route. Just as a point of interest and comparison, do you see any similarities, major differences in running those two particular programs? Do you see different students who would have been on NCUK better on UFP or vice versa? I mean, just as a point of comparison more than anything else, because you've been first hand on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both very similar. They both end up with very similar results in terms of students progressing to good universities. As Ryan said, I think for certain students who maybe struggle with the 2-year A level and the requirements of the A levels, UFPs and foundation programs are a much easier access to that university progression. In terms of the difference between the UFP and NCUK, I would say the biggest element, the thing that I was very conscious of adding, is UFP has that 6 academic modules, and therefore there's a kind of wider exposure for the students. Coming from a Scottish educational background where we do hires and we do sort of between 5 and 6 hires, I find that is really advantageous when going to university, that you have a much wider knowledge. And also, I'm sure we all look back on it, but at the age of 16, 17, knowing what you actually want to study and making that choice and narrowing it down to 3 choices is potentially limiting for students. So I think by having that wider range of academic modules that they take, there's much greater progression and options for them to, you know, think a little bit more about what they want to study at university and whether or not they actually enjoy those subjects that they've chosen. So again, for this year, we had several students start on the business pathway. The vast majority of them will still probably progress onto business modules, but certainly I would say maybe 25%, 30% of them have really had their interests sort of piqued by international relations and are now progressing onto international relation degrees rather than business studies. And without that addition of, you know, the extra modules, I don't think that would have necessarily been something they even sort of contemplated before. And actually, in actual fact, one student was very resistant to the fact that they were studying international relations. Why do I have to do this? I just want to do business. They've now applied and are super excited about being potentially accepted to Manchester for an international relations degree. So
wow.
Things do change, and I think having those extra modules is definitely can be seen as an advantage for students.
Very much so. I mean, it's as I was saying to Ryan before, it's nice to hear of the individual case studies, because what it does absolutely go and prove is that people's minds do change from where they start through to the back end. And one of the things, and this is a very superficial view from me, who's obviously had more exposure to the A levels over the course of time. But one thing I find fascinating about foundation courses nowadays is that they are probably more relevant and wildly current with keeping track of what's going on in the world outside and really trying to encourage students through. And it seems to me that a good foundation student needs to be someone who's also got their eyes open to what goes on beyond school, whereas with A-level students it can still be a little bit too narrow to the actual syllabuses themselves.
Yeah, well, I think it's much more like that university experience where particularly with the MPW London UFP, we are designing these courses and updating them based on, you know, what's happening in the world and etc. So the content is a little bit more flexible. It is directed by the tutors, and obviously we are leading the aspects that we believe are going to be beneficial with various guidelines, etc. But yeah, it gives us that much quicker response time to changes and adding in new elements in terms of the syllabus, etc., which I think is just much more dynamic, and I think that's what the students enjoy, and particularly as it is designed for international students, I think it's a really important aspect for them to have this concept of the much bigger, wider environmental aspects and this multiple level kind of subjects that they're undertaking. So
Yeah,
I think students really enjoy it, and very much like university as well, we try as much as possible in the modules to have a mix of coursework and exams. So giving them, again, that experience that I feel A-level students struggle with when they go to university, because there's so little coursework for most modules now, or A-level courses, that actually when they get to university and suddenly you're hit with 25% of your grade or 50% of your grade is based on coursework submission, students are not used to that independent aspect, or we've trained them to be very good at exams, but we've not necessarily trained them how to do the research or those additional kind of academic independent learning skills, which are essential for progression at university. So yeah, we really encourage that, and we push a lot in terms of the students doing detailed presentations, which again is something you don't really have in terms of the A-level aspects, and then written documents and reports and business reports, etc., in the business modules.
I think that's a really wonderful touch, actually, building on those soft skills as well that often get missed alongside. I think that's really important, and particularly for the international audience coming in as well. I really do think that helps develop confidence levels within there too. Look, it's a wonderful foundation program. We're very proud to add that into the canon of what we've got. Just as a quick view to the future, I mean, are you constantly bringing more and more universities on stream? How do the universities feel about the UFP as much as anything else?
Yeah, so I mean, universities are definitely interested. I say Durham would be one of the big additions that we had this year. They were keen to get in contact with us in terms of the foundation. So they obviously wanted a little bit more information about the modules and how the course runs, etc. But having had various discussions with them, said we had, I think, 3 students apply, and all 3 of them received offers from Durham. Most of them should meet the requirements, so they're currently finalising their decisions in terms of whether they're putting Durham number 1 or number 2 in terms of their choices. And there's various reasons at play there. They're interested in going to Durham, but then they're also interested in going to Manchester. So difficult choices for them to make. But yes, in terms of adding universities, we're definitely keen to add additional universities. I say one of the benefits of the MPW UFP in general is there's a much wider range of options in terms of London-based universities. We do find that a lot of our students are very London-centric, so it's often difficult to get them to look beyond the wonderful golden paved streets of London for their progression. But they are starting to open in their eyes now, I think, and particularly with the sort of success we've had with adding Durham. We're looking, I think, based on some of the new courses that we're offering, sort of various universities that we're going to try and target, I would say would be places like Loughborough. I mean, if we could get elements of them, particularly for the sports science pathway, that would be a super attractive one for a lot of international students. And then another one that quite a few students are keen for is sort of Exeter University as well. So yeah, I mean, we are constantly looking at adding new universities. We have a pretty good relationship now with Hult, which gives students a good option in terms of not only London-based campus, but obviously the option of going to their Boston campus, or I think also their Dubai campus, which seems to be an increasing aspect of students looking a little bit more for international universities. We do have a few American ones as well. So with the Kaplan, obviously being an American company, they do have access to a few American universities. We have had some students apply in the past, but it's often based on SATs, and that's something we're looking at potentially increasing in the future, is building up a slightly better progression for that. And actually, one thing I did forget to mention earlier was we've been in discussion with the art department as well, and there is the option for potentially humanities-based students and even engineering students where they can complete those programs, but we could also offer them additional support in the creation of their art portfolio to then apply for the likes of architecture or as we have this year, there's a few students looking to do fashion management, but also would have been quite interested in general fashion degrees, etc. So often all they require for that is the portfolio along with their academic modules. So that's something we're looking to add potentially next year, but most probably it might take a little bit longer for us to work out the elements.
Okay. Lovely. Look, thank you very much indeed. I mean, there is a question, well, there's two in fact now. Is there any student who's progressed to a Hong Kong-based university yet? I think the answer to that is probably no at this point, but is that going to be a possibility, Ollie?
I think we might have had one student, I'll need to check, because he was on the course. He's actually one of our best students. He got distinctions in all his modules. He was initially going to go to Bristol, I think was his first choice, but he had family issue. I think a elderly relative became sick, so he had to go back to Hong Kong at the end of the year. I think he did end up progressing on to a university in Hong Kong. I will need to check that because I can't remember definitively if he did, but that was certainly his plan, and we were certainly helping him with that progression.
Wonderful. I think that one may become more popular over the course of time, certainly with the way the financial markets are working at this moment, of people wanting to go back home, etc. afterwards. So that's definitely one for the future within there. This is probably far too new for the UFP at the moment. It might be, and I will just bring Rudolf back into this as well, because it might be a question that NCUK can answer a little bit clearer. But do you yet have a sense as to the success rate of students graduating via UFP, Rudolf, through NCUK, for completion the other side of degrees? How well students do? How well are they prepared on these pathways versus other pathways? Ollie, it might just be a gut feeling at the moment, but Rudolf, you might have some data to that one.
Well, from the UFP perspective, since I've taken over, the first set of students, I think, are just now probably about to complete their final degree. So we'll get a little bit more detail on that progression. And there's a lot of changes really in the UFP over the last 3 years in terms of the caliber of student, the universities they're applying to, etc. But yeah, sort of anecdotally, we obviously have the MPW prize giving, and I was speaking to a few of the students from the previous year who were at the prize giving ceremony, both of which had completed first year by that point and had effectively got the equivalent of sort of first and 2-1s in terms of their progression up to that point. Obviously not final degrees, but in terms of their grades and scores. And I think one of them had won an award for one of their business plans and presentations that they created on that course. And I think that was they were at Queen Mary, and the other student was at York, and again she was sort of performing exceptionally well with first and 2-1s across the board, really, in terms of her results. So yeah, I think the students generally progress, and the benefit is the variety of universities we have options to. There's generally a right fit for all the students. So someone who's maybe just getting through with passes and maybe a few merits, some of the lower ranked universities, they're going to have the ability to succeed and flourish there. And then the higher caliber students, which are achieving the distinctions and the higher grades overall, are obviously going to apply to the Russell groups and the higher ranked universities. And again, from what we've seen, those students that have attended those universities are definitely flourishing and succeeding in terms of their academic ability.
Thank you. Rudolf, that might be...
You basically summed it up, to be honest. But yeah, from our side, statistics-wise, it's in the high 90s of all our pathway students that progress to universities that do complete their studies and are employed afterwards as well. So I think just in general, once again, a pathway is not just the course that you do. It's actually a whole journey that you go on, and it is the pathway setting you up for success, going to your university and then completing your studies there as well. And then we've also got the 96, 97% of our students that are employed after finishing their studies. So it's all about also the support that you provide of, which university to go to, do you want to go to a highly ranked? Are you being realistic on the university you want to go to, looking at your marks, looking at, I had something else, but I had some a funny conversation the other day where we actually also provide support in the way of the weather at the university you want to go to. Are you okay with being in a colder environment, or is maybe Australia a better? But it's true. That's actually conversations you need to have with students. So, because if you're used to, let's say from Cameroon, which is almost summer the whole year, going to a place where it's 7 months of the year, it's going to be cold. It's going to be quite daunting. It's something you need to get used to. So a lot of support that we provide, and I think our students are set up for success progressing to the university that they are informed on, also not just progressing to where they want to go.
Lovely. I think that's brilliant in terms of the weather. It's one of those things we take for granted, but I didn't realise those were conversations that were live and happening. But who amongst us doesn't check what the weather's going to look like on a daily basis? So 100%. Look, thank you very much indeed to both of you, Ryan, who's also now had to pop off as well. I'm very conscious of the time for you, gents. If there's no other questions, then we'll sort of draw it to a close. Any closing thoughts from either of you two at this moment, or have you rather encapsulated everything? I think you possibly have, but closing thoughts, if you will.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll just say in terms of students and agents that are looking to place students, foundations are a great option for students. I think previously they may have had a bit of a negative reputation and been seen as a sort of lower progression route, but actually the options and the ability of students to succeed and gain entry to pretty incredible universities, I think is a massive selling point for these foundation courses. Universities are increasingly happy to accept these students, and it is, as I think Ryan mentioned earlier, for those students that are going to struggle with the 2-year academic elements of A-levels, it's a much more progressive course that's going to set them up, in my opinion, certainly with the MPW UFP, it's going to set them up super well for progression and success at university. And on top of that, it's also a 1-year course that is designed for its entirety to be completed in a year. So it gives them that ability to progress without an additional 2 years or without the kind of drawn out process of the A-levels and all the elements that go along with that.
Thank you very much. Rudolph, anything further?
So once again, agree with Oliver, definitely. But from my side, I would just say then for NCUK, my role is actually helping or setting up study centers, and like I mentioned, we have 120 study centers. So for an agent looking at partnering with a study center, MPW, definitely one of our better study centers out there, and definitely someone to speak to. We do have 120 study centers, but I can promise you we've seen a lot more proposals out there that we didn't open up a study center. So 120 are good study centers, and MPW definitely great. So definitely won't be a problem doing or sending students to do the foundation with them.
Lovely. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed to both of you on that one, and to everyone for joining in on the first of our MPW talks. It was really informative. Great to hear the different perspectives. As I said during it, we are incredibly proud to have both the NCUK and UFP as part of our offerings. Different things for different people, and I think that really is the key. But there are lots of different things for different students to explore throughout, and the key really is to get in touch, to have a conversation, to contact your in-market recruiters if you've got any questions immediately, but then to come through to the staff in the colleges to actually be able to discuss and explore these options further. Foundation courses are indeed wonderful. How are they different from university and administered through colleges? Simply through the level of support I feel that we can actually give on top of what you might get when you join a university directly. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Next week, we are building bridges, specifically Ox bridges, with Inga Morrissey, who's our Vice Principal International over in Cambridge. He'll be giving more of an interactive look at how you actually complete the Ox bridge process itself, but also specific to university applications too. and looking at the personal statements that will hopefully get you in to that G5 Russell Group, whatever it is we're going to be calling it nowadays. But specifically, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thank you to all of our participants and speakers, and for you joining us at home, wherever you are, whatever the time of day and whatever, Rudolph, the weather is, wherever you are at this particular moment. Thank you very much. All the very best, and we will see you again next week. Bye-bye for now.